the Thurber House in Columbus, Ohio. James Thurber lived in the house from 1913 to 1917, and during his time there, he suffered from various health issues, including a detached retina, which left him almost blind. In 1915, Thurber's brother, William, passed away in the house due to complications from a burst appendix. Currently, the Thurber House is a museum dedicated to the American author and cartoonist who lived there and even experienced ghostly encounters of his own. But centuries ago, the property was built on traces of the Ohio Lunatic Asylum, specifically near the State of Ohio Asylum for the Insane Cemetery. Now, in 1868, the Ohio Lunatic Asylum burned down and the land was divided into 3 residential parts, one of which later became the Thurber House. People who visit the house say they've seen books flying off the shelves and heard footsteps on the back staircase, as well as doors creaking and doors opening and closing on their own. While there's rumors some of the ghostly activity is Thurber, others wonder if it's the distressed spirits from the psychiatric hospital that used to be on the grounds. Licking County Historic Jail in Newark, Ohio. At least 22 confirmed fatalities happened at Licking County Jail, which opened in 1889, and it's said to be one of the most haunted places in Ohio. The 3 sheriffs and 19 inmates who met untimely demises at the jail are thought to be some of the source of most of the building's ghostly activity. There are reports of disembodied voices calling out, cell doors slamming shut on their own, plus sounds of footsteps and kind of jingling keys. It was built in 1889 and operated until 1979, and during its 90-year run, it housed thousands of inmates, all for various crimes, of course. The jail witnessed numerous tragic events, including riots resulting in fatalities, escapes, and even executions. The traumatic energy from these events have had a lasting residual energy that's felt throughout the whole prison. The jail has been investigated by numerous paranormal teams, including ghost hunters and ghost adventures. They've captured evidence of paranormal activity, including audio and video recordings of just unexplained phenomena. Some visitors even say they've had someone whisper in their ear and seen shadowy figures accompanied by, strange lights. If you'd like to visit, you can. They offer guided tours, so if you're brave enough, go for it. The Ridges at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. The 700-acre property was originally the site of the Athens Lunatic Asylum, opening in the 1800s, built exactly in 1874 for the purpose of providing care and treatment to the mentally ill. The asylum eventually closed down, and the vacant land and buildings transferred to Ohio University around 1993. Because the conditions many patients at the asylum endured, many people believe that their restless spirits haunt the buildings that make up the Ridges. Now, in addition to the uneasy feelings, visitors also report hearing screams, rattling door handles, and figures that seem to vanish in thin air. More spooky encounters can actually be found by hiking the area. Now, basically, one of the trails leads to the Ridges Cemetery, where visitors actually say they encounter the graves of patients from the asylum. There have been numerous tragic events that have taken place here, including, a lot of patients passing, many fatally passed due to just poor living conditions, inadequate treatments, as well as tragic accidents. In the early 20th century, a tuberculosis outbreak swept through the asylum, claiming the lives of almost everyone there. And in 1936, a devastating fire ravaged the asylum's administration building. The building is actually still open to the public for tours and paranormal investigations. The Hackett Hotel in Marietta, Ohio. Built in 1899, this hotel has reported numerous ghost sightings throughout the building. While overnight guests report seeing, spectral figures, it's nothing compared to the presence that haunts the Galley restaurant. Now, housed in the old Hackett Hotel, the Galley is, basically it's a restaurant known for its food and atmosphere in the heart of historic Marietta. It was built in 1899, and the building was a popular local spot for decades and was renovated in the 1980s into another restaurant, at which point the ghosts made themselves very known, and the ghostly activity has continued, from bottles crashing to the floor, glasses flying off shelves, and chairs screeching across empty rooms. The spectral incidents are so frequent, many staffers have actually come to believe it's the work of the same ghost, one that they actually named Charlotte. The Franklin Castle in Cleveland, Ohio. Starting in the 1960s, people reported flickering lights, sound of crying babies, and even the ghostly image of a woman in black, who some believe is the ghost of Hans Tiedeman's wife, Louise. Now, Hans Tiedemann was a wealthy German immigrant who built the home between 1881 and 1883, but his wife, Louise, passed in the house in 1895. He actually lost many of his family members in the house, including his own daughter. Hans passed himself under very mysterious circumstances in 1908, with some even speculating that he might have been assassinated. The building wasn't accessible to the public for years, but was recently converted into a haunted attraction. So you can now actually book an overnight stay at Franklin Castle, but be on the lookout for its guests who also roam the halls of this historic spot. People have claimed to have heard whispers, screams, banging, doors opening and closing, of course, on their own, lights flickering, objects moving on their own, and legend also has it that Hans built hidden rooms and secret passages within the mansion and may have even hid a treasure, although it's said to be cursed. Collingwood Arts Center in Toledo, Ohio. Now, the Collingwood Arts Center is not only one of the oldest buildings in Toledo, but it's also considered one of the city's most haunted places. The Collingwood Arts Center is a registered historical site, once home to a convent. Now, past supernatural sightings include orbs being seen and photographed throughout the facility. There's also a rumor the basement is haunted by the ghost of a nun who passed away down in its depths. Now, unsurprisingly, there has been, ghostly sightings of other nuns throughout the building. Both a friendly and oppressive presence have been ascribed to the different specters who haunt the hallways and the attic. Now, there's even been reports of piano music being played late at night. The Arts Center offers ghost tours, allowing visitors to explore the building and experience the alleged paranormal activity. While the tour is spooky, it does not include jump scares, and VIPs can actually gather for, light snacks and drinks tastings and have access to equipment to borrow, so give it a visit. South Bass Island Lighthouse in Put-in-Bay, Ohio. Now, visitors to the lighthouse report creepy footsteps, slamming doors, and unexplained noises coming from the lighthouse. Eerily, the origin of one notable ghost, thought to actually haunt the building is a century-old mystery. Prior to a smallpox outbreaks in 1898, Sam Anderson had been hired to look after the island lighthouse. Now, when police went to check on Anderson and make sure he hadn't left the quarantine area, they discovered his body at the bottom of a cliff near the lighthouse. Samuel Anderson's demise was ruled actually a self-inflicted tragedy, yet rumors circulated of a more evil demise. Some believe he'd been pushed and his restless soul was doomed to haunt the lighthouse. The basement where Samuel Anderson lived is a focal point of the alleged hauntings, with some believing his spirit lingers there. States that some people state as well that the lighthouse is one of the most haunted must-see places in Ohio. Riders Inn, located in Painesville, Ohio. So the hotel, which dates back to 1812, was originally built as a stagecoach stop along the Oregon Trail. Now, later it served as a station to basically the Underground Railroad and a speakeasy in the 1920s. Now, the hotel's storied past offers guests a very unique chance to kind of embrace Ohio's history during their stay. Riders Inn was built by Elias Pryor, who was a local prominent farmer. Many believe that Pryor's spirit still roams the inn, watching over his former home. Its most notorious ghost is Suzanne, who's the late wife of the hotel's owner, who passed shortly after their wedding. She's actually been seen throughout the property, and some accounts mention her coming to the hotel door in her nightgown, where she proceeds to let guests inside, if the hotel owners, of course, aren't around. Also, according to legend, a young girl passed in the inn as well, and her spirit remains often seen playing or running through the halls as little kids would. Now, there's been lots of reports of guests seeing ghostly figures, hearing unusual noises, and some have speculated that because the inn's location is actually built on Native American land, that might contribute to the paranormal activity as well. The inn to this day will host various events such as, mystery dinners, ghost-themed parties, and paranormal conferences. So it's a must-visit destination if you're a ghost enthusiast, history buff, or just looking for a really unique experience should you find yourselves in Painesville. The Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio. Once serving as a state prison, the Ohio State Reformatory housed more than 150,000 inmates throughout its time. This haunted Ohio prison, which is also called the Mansfield Reformatory, has just led to several ghost sightings. Today at the Ohio State, Reformatory, there were several types of paranormal events that have happened, and there's also events that are available for visitors looking to experience its haunted history firsthand. Now, otherworldly presences, at the Ohio State Reformatory include a guard making his round and a shadow person in a former administrative office area on the 3rd floor. Visitors also say they experience strong energy and very unsettling emotions, which is attributed to, the more than 200 people, including 2 guards, who actually passed away in the prison. Lastly, we have the Machinak Theater in Chillicothe, Ohio, known as America's oldest continuously operating theater. Now, the Machinak Theater has been screening into the hearts of film fans since 1853. The restored Masonic, Opera House offers live comedy, movie nights, special events, and a few ghosts as well. The Machinak Theater is actually said to be haunted due in large part to its use as a temporary morgue during the Spanish flu epidemic that swept through nearby, Camp Sherman in 1918. Now, bodies were stacked in the dressing rooms beneath the stage as a holding place until they could be embalmed on the stage, basically. Now, the ghost of a little girl appears to haunt this very historic theater. Past paranormal investigations have actually captured her presence on audio recordings, but she's not the only ghost in this haunted place. Visitors have also reported a very unsettling presence in the hallway and a man dressed in a suit and tie. He's been spotted actually walking up the aisles towards the stage. Which haunted spot in Ohio have you visited or maybe want to visit? Let me know. Thanks for watching. I'm your host Ashley. Until next time, stay scared. The Parins family's haunted farmhouse. Ed and Lorraine investigated the Parins family's farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island, which was allegedly haunted by evil spirits. The Parins family, including Roger and Carolyn Parins and their 5 daughters, moved into a farmhouse in Harrisville in 1971, where they claimed to experience a series of paranormal events. The family reported seeing apparitions, hearing strange noises, and experiencing poltergeist activity, including objects moving and beds levitating. On August 22, 1973, Ed and Lorraine captured footage of Carolyn Parins, the family matriarch, allegedly becoming possessed by an evil spirit. The footage shows Carolyn's eyes rolling back, her voice changing, and her body contorting in unnatural ways. Andrea Parins, the oldest of the Parins children, said, "These were spirits who had an attachment to the property. 8 generations of one extended family had lived and passed at the farm, and some of them had never left."
Driscoll in Austin, Texas is a majestic Romanesque hotel with modern rooms and an iconic brick facade, drawing tourists and wedding parties since 1886. It's a true Austin landmark, and according to some, a true hotspot for ghosties. According to my sources, the entire city is basically spooky central. It's a sort of town with such a grand ectoplasmic infestation that every day seems like Halloween. Ghost tours aren't just a way of making a living, they're basically an obligation, and quite possibly enforced by the mucky mucks in charge of the city. But to quote the Austin Ghosts website, the Driscoll is a sweet spot that brings in all the traffic. The one place ghost enthusiasts go gonzo for. A place on Austin's haunted face that every guide wants on their repertoire. The one cherry each tour company fights over, the hotel was commissioned and paid for by its namesake, Jesse Driscoll. Jesse was a successful cattle baron who had moved from Texas to Missouri with an eye for making all the money he could. The determined entrepreneur, who was a self-made beef baron, broke the bank when he started selling his cattle to the Confederate Army. Now, after the Civil War went kaput and the South decided to call it quits, Jesse looked at his kingdom and realized he was one of the richest men in the state. So, what do barons do? They diversify their portfolio. So Jesse went and got himself a hotel. He bought the land in 1884, and 2 years later, he had the grand opening. All paid, furnished, and marketed with coins chiseled into his pockets on the backs of dead soldiers, human misery, and more. They say he never recovered from the heartbreak, though, of losing his hotel in a high-stakes poker game. How'd that happen? Well, shortly after the hotel opened up, Jesse came under the pressures of financial hardship, which is code for he blew his earnings on booze, women, and gambling. So he had no choice but to forfeit the ownership, because by that point, he was a mess and up to his eyeballs in debt. So, nowadays, what's going on? Why is this place haunted? Travelers have noted eerily abnormal sounds throughout the ornate corridors, as well as phantom sightings of the hotel's namesake. Yeah, because Jesse's portrait still hangs in the lobby. One of his favorite rooms to haunt overlooks 6th Street and Brazos, and there was a consultant in town one time who woke up one night, saw somebody standing in his room, looking out the window, and this was about 3 o'clock in the morning. This guy was puffing on a cigar, and the consultant was like, "Hey guy, what are you doing in my room?" And the guy looked at him and was like, "Your room?" But he didn't say anything. He just gave the look like, "I don't think so, pal." So the consultant leaned over, snapped on the light, and when the light came on, there was nobody by the window. But the curtains were still swaying and there was still a cloud of cigar smoke in the air. Now, Jesse isn't the only ghost that likes to hang out. There's one that's known as the Bride, because, well, in the early 1990s, a distraught bride checked into room 329 because her fiancé had just called off their wedding. She decided to spend over $40,000 on a shopping spree and a culinary free-for-all. But on the 3rd day of her staying there, she lined up all of her swag next to her bed, pulled out a firearm, and took her head off. She was considerate though. She used a pillow to muffle the sound. To this day, guests swear they see her ghost towing bags up and down the halls of the hotel. Alrighty folks, next up we're going to chat about the Dock Street Theater in Charleston, South Carolina, which is interestingly enough not located on Dock Street but on Church Street. Another quirky fact about the theater is that at one time it was actually a hotel and is now the last surviving antebellum hotel. Guests of the theater have claimed to see spirits roaming about, sights of ghostly shadows in the rafters, and apparitions on the stage. Many are left to wonder just who these ghosts were. Were they failed actors? Were they longtime admirers of the theater? Or is it possible that something more tragic occurred at the building? While there have been numerous sightings throughout the building's long history, there are 2 particular spirits that have been seen more often than any of the others. One of these 2 specters is believed to be Junius Brutus Booth, the father of the infamous presidential assassin. Now, nobody is quite sure why his ghost is haunting the theater, because aside from performing at the former hotel with his troupe and the rumor that he tried to kill the manager of the Planters Hotel, he doesn't really have any strong ties to the building. But the most frequently spotted ghostie at the Dock Street Theater is Nettie, who lived in Charleston during the 1800s and could usually be found at the hotel. She wasn't really a guest or a member of the staff. She was a bit of a freelancer. And what was her profession? The world's oldest job. Poor thing was killed by a bolt of lightning, leading to a sudden and unexpected death, and it left her with some unfinished business that I guess nobody's been able to help her with yet. Now, her ghost can be seen gliding around aimlessly throughout the theater. Some folks who have caught a glimpse of her claim that she wore a tattered yet vibrantly colored red dress. One of the most historically significant houses in San Diego, the Whaley House, is also known as one of the most haunted places in all of the US. Its rich past is also a torrid one, including the self-taken life of Violet Whaley from a 2nd floor balcony and the rope necklacing of Yankee Jim Robinson, which took place before the house was even constructed. Visitors to the house consistently report strange sounds, sights, and inexplicable events, so much so that many paranormal experts have investigated, including Travel Channel's America's Most Haunted. From heavy footsteps and disembodied voices to the apparition of Thomas Whaley and his wife Anna, visitors report being spooked, intrigued, and even a bit frightened while touring the house. Other ghosts have been seen as well, and because the house was home to many residents over the years after the original family moved out, nobody knows for sure who they are. But one thing remains consistent: the eerie presence of those who have left the world of the living but refuse to leave the house. Now, just a couple of steps away from the house, El Campo Santo Cemetery is also known for its haunted occurrences. Established in 1849, this Roman Catholic cemetery was originally the burial ground for more than 450 people, including Yankee Jim Robinson, the guy I already mentioned a moment ago. So the trouble here started when the city built a horse-drawn carriage line and later paved over part of the cemetery to make way for car travel. At least 18 graves are known to be under the street and sidewalk, leaving those buried below not super duper happy. People who visit the area and park their cars along the street have reported having trouble starting their cars and having their alarms go off for no reason. Those who walk the grounds of this historic cemetery have also had mysterious experiences: an icy chill coming over them, glowing figures, a floating image, and a specter that appears to be dressed in period clothing. There's also a woman in a Victorian gown, just to name a few. Listed on the National Register of Historic Places, the old jail in St. Augustine was built by Henry Flagler in 1891 and served the county until 1953. Now, during this era, it was not uncommon for the warden and his family to live inside the jail, adjacent to the prisoners. So Sheriff Joe Perry and his family were also residents within the building, in addition to about 60 prisoners. Visitors to the old jail have a chance to walk through the men's and women's cells, see actual weapons that were used in crimes, and tour through the execution gallows. The experience is often a frightening one, especially for those who are easily caught off guard by unexpected events. Many have died and suffered with diseases within these walls, walls, and it is believed that their spirits are still lingering. Now, the, I think 6'8", 300-pound sheriff has been seen and heard. You've also got strange smells, heavy footsteps, disembodied moaning, laughing, jangling chains, even the sounds of dogs barking have all been reported. The old jail is so abundant with supernatural activity that has been investigated by various paranormal professionals, so it's listed in the National Directory of Haunted Places, making it a landmark attraction. And finally for today, we have the Crescent Hotel, located in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. This was erected in 1886 and has served several purposes over time, such as a luxury resort, a conservatory for young women, and a junior college. But the strangest mark on its history came in 1937 when it got an owner named Norman G. Baker. Now, Norman was a millionaire inventor and radio personality who decided to pose as a doctor, despite having no medical training, and wanted to turn the hotel into a hospital that could cure cancer. He was eventually found out and was run out of town, but his spirit somehow found its way back to the hotel and found some otherworldly company as well. The now operating Crescent Hotel is said to be haunted by at least 8 ghosts, ranging from a girl to a bearded man, all wearing Victorian clothing. When the current owners, Marty and Elise, bought the hotel in 1997, they hired not 1 but 2 certified mediums to do a reading of the building, and the mediums found that the hotel showed signs of being a portal to the other side, as in a dimension that holds the spirits of the dead and can be accessed by those on the same frequency as ghosts. That portal is located on top of what used to be the morgue. Now, one thing I like to stress, especially when dealing with angry ghosties, is to never disturb the graves, and a formal archaeological dig was done on the property in 2019, uncovering Norman Baker's bottle grave, with some of the glass containers clearly showing fleshy remains, while others are believed to have held his assorted curing potions that never cured anyone. If you'd like to see them for yourself, they're on display in the Crescent's morgue. Oh, totally forgot. Both the morgue, complete with autopsy table, and a walk-in cooler where Baker stored cadavers and body parts are open for public viewing. The experience comes with seeing the ghosts huddled around the morgue's autopsy table pleading for help, the reoccurrence of a Baker patient who also served as a hospital assistant being seen in and around room 419, better known as Theodora's room, the early morning, loud squeaking of wheels on the 3rd floor corridor, accompanied by sightings of a nurse pushing a gurney full of corpses down the hallway, only to see it vanish into thin air. Sounds like a fun ghost tour for me.
Coming in at number 5, we have Terrace Inn. Located just north of the city of Petoskey lies the Victorian inn called Terrace Inn. The inn opened in 1911 and was known to be a luxury 38-room Victorian resort, though the perception of the Terrace Inn has since changed from a large number of scary ghost reports. It also doesn't help that there have been multiple deaths on the premise. Before this building was an inn, it was 2 boarding houses until they were torn down to create what we now know as Terrace Inn. During construction, 2 workers fell off a beam and sadly passed away. Therefore, it's rumored that their spirits may have settled in at the inn once construction was complete. That's not the only accident and ghost story that has occurred at the Terrace Inn though, as many years later there was a woman named Abby Sweet who was staying at the inn. Abby was pregnant and unfortunately fell and lost her life. After that event occurred, her husband Edward passed away from heartbreak just a few years later. This accident occurred in room 211, which is known to have the most reports of ghost experiences and paranormal activity. That isn't the only spirit lurking in the inn though, as there is the interactive youth, a boy between the ages of 12 to 14 who has been seen inhabiting the basement. That being said, his identity and the reason for his presence are unknown. Over the decades, there have been many reports of paranormal activity at the inn. If you ask the desk clerk for the inn's ghost files, they'll hand over a thick folder with accounts from past guests and employees. Even more frightening, it seems these reports may very well be true, as the reports span over 25 years written by strangers with similar ghost stories. Most reports from guests and workers are of hearing sounds of footsteps and voices late at night. Additionally, doors open and close by themselves unexplainably. Some have even reported hearing the sound of a piano playing or a party being held, but when investigated, the area the sounds were coming from was vacant. Plenty of paranormal investigators have spent the night at this haunted hotel, and they all agree it's crawling with paranormal activity. Lucky for the guests though, the investigators and workers all agree that the spirits aren't harmful or hold negative energy. That all being said, this historic inn remains one of our most paranormally active locations in Michigan. In at number 4, we have Sol Choy Point Lighthouse. On the shores of Lake Michigan sits Sol Choy Point Lighthouse. The lighthouse has been in operation since 1895, and it's the only active light left on the lake, but behind its walls holds the stories and spirits. Between 1902 and 1910, Joseph Willie Townsend was the lighthouse keeper who lived in the upstairs bedroom with his wife. For decades, it's been said that Captain Willie Townsend remains attached to the old structure. The captain died at the age of 63 in 1910, and his death remains a mystery, though some believed it was cancer as he was known to be a heavy smoker. His body was embalmed in the basement of the lighthouse. Once Mr. Townsend died, some curious individuals got inside and went into the basement, where they found pieces of an old broken up kitchen table. Once they reassembled the table, that's when the paranormal activity began. The table chairs kept getting rearranged on their own, and silverware was set on the table in a specific pattern, the way the captain preferred them. There have been multiple reports of a strong smell of cigar smoke within the lighthouse. Additionally, the captain's face has been seen in the upstairs bedroom mirror on 13 different occasions. The Sol Choy Point Lighthouse is one of the Upper Peninsula Paranormal Research Society's favourite spots to investigate due to its high activity from the paranormal. They have seen the alleged shadow of Townsend move behind the curtains of the lighthouse and have also seen him appear in a mirror. Not only that, but one guest had even said that during her visit she saw a man wearing a heavy blue coat walking across the yard of the lighthouse. She waved at the man, but he just ignored her. Not thinking much of it, she went on with her day. When the guest got home and did research on the lighthouse, she realised the man she saw was the captain himself. And to this day, those who visit Sol Choy Point Lighthouse leave with stories that turn non-believers into believers of the paranormal. In at number 3, we have Machinak Island. One of Michigan's most popular tourist destinations is also one of its most haunted, Machinak Island. The small island sits on Lake Huron, covering almost 4 square miles of land between the upper and lower peninsulas of Michigan. The island was originally home to indigenous settlements long before European colonization. Seeing at least 2 battles during the War of 1812, it has been the resting ground of many tragic deaths, making it a prime location for hauntings and paranormal activity. In a part of the island, you will find the Grand Hotel. The area first served as a missionary school, but today it's known as a luxury hotel. Through investigators, there have been many reports of paranormal activity in the area, and it's known that the Grand Hotel is one of the hotspots for paranormal activity on the island. Legend has it that construction workers uncovered human remains while digging the hotel's foundation, with paranormal activity stories being recorded in the theatre, outside grounds, and in its rooms. The staff have also reported seeing a man in a top hat playing the bar's piano. Others see a woman in Victorian clothing who roams the halls, even getting into beds. Another paranormal hotspot is the Mission Point Resort, which was a moral realignment, a religious movement from the 1930s. The resort's popular ghost story is about a man named Harvey who died in the late 1960s. Supposedly, Harvey was dealing with a broken heart and ended his life behind the resort, not being found until 6 months later. Some people believe there's more to the story, that he was perhaps murdered. That being said, Harvey is often reported in the resort's theatre, where visitors have reported being pinched or poked. With the never-ending ghost stories and paranormal reports, the island is deemed the most haunted town per capita in the United States, with 16 haunted locations per 478 people. It is safe to say that there are some paranormal activities and ghosts lurking on the grounds of the island. Coming in at number 2, we have Holly Hotel. Due to the growing number of railroad passengers passing through the area, the hotel was built in 1891. Many staff, residents, and haunted historians will agree that the Holly Hotel is one of the most haunted buildings in the state of Michigan. Norman Gauthier, a professor of parapsychology who is also known as a world-famous ghost hunter, investigated the hotel in 1989 and concluded that the building is indeed haunted by a great number of spirits. Throughout the years, the hotel survived 2 fires exactly 65 years apart. Many residents and guests of the hotel have talked about the weird feelings they got on the second floor of the hotel, without us actually admitting to seeing ghosts. The inn's most famous ghost is said to be the former owner himself, Mr. Hurst. Hurst passed away in the 1920s, but many believe he just can't let go of his hotel. He is the most active ghost at the Holly Hotel and wasn't happy with the renovations that have been done to his inn. The rumour is if you see a man wearing a frock coat and top hat and smell cigars, you most likely have met the man himself. The other most common spirit would be with the former hostess, Nora Kane. According to the hotel, Nora's ghost is seen most often in the bar and back hallway. She has been heard playing the piano or softly singing a tune throughout the hotel, and her flowery perfumes can be faintly smelt when she is around. Those are only the 2 most common spirits of the Holly Hotel, though there are so many more encounters reported by visitors and ghost hunters. And finally, in at number 1, we have Beeson Mansion. Found in Niles, Michigan, sits an old mansion that was built in 1847. The home was constructed by a local whiskey distiller who sold it to an attorney, Strother Beeson, and that's why it was referred to as the Beeson Mansion. Across the street of the mansion lies the family's private cemetery. Strother built the tomb across the street as a final resting place for his mother, and it wasn't too long afterward another family member joined the cemetery. Strother's son, born in 1969, tragically passed away, and a total of 12 family members are now entombed in the crypt. The ghost stories surrounding the Beeson mausoleum are at least based on truth, if not completely true. Family legends about Harriet's odd behavior were cited in newspapers over time, but not until much later, accompanied by reporting on unverifiable hauntings. Jumping to the late 1980s, when working to restore the mansion, the property owner reported hitting their head on a table in the hall, but something hitting them on the back. As well, they experienced instances of being pushed forward by an unknown force. Additionally, the doors would open and close behind them unexplainably. The renovated mansion is vacant now, but no one dares to buy it due to the many cases of hauntings and paranormal activity.